What it is, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. It's a wrap, aka UD here, and we're getting to what I've been reading recently. If you're interested, stick around. Okay, so I have 9 books in total, and this time around, I'm not going to pull out the physical books because it's not that many, and I just feel like for continuity purposes, I'm just going to put up the image. To give a summary of my reading for Q1 or the past 4 months, I would say it's been pretty good. I told myself I wasn't going to read a bunch of new releases, but from this wrap up, as you can tell, that has not been the case. I've been reading a lot of new releases and they've been really good. And I can't wait to just do a summary. Every year I say this, but I can't wait to just do a summary of my thoughts of the new releases that came out this year, because I think in this wrap up, I have some 5-star reads in here, some books that are probably going to make it into my end of year favorites list. So let's get right into it. The first book that I have is The 7 Daughters of Dupree by Nikesha Elise Williams. If you haven't checked out my video that I did about my anticipated releases for 2026, I have that link below. And also, which I think it's more current, I have a bookshop, which I don't talk about it enough, do I? I have a bookshop storefront or list of all the 2026 releases by Black authors that I'm aware of, that I'm anticipating their release. And I'm constantly, as new books are coming into my privy, I'm constantly updating that list. So if you are interested in seeing a list of books by Black authors that are coming out in 2026, you can look at that list that I have linked down below. Also, if you end up buying or pre-ordering a book through bookshop.org through my book list, I am an affiliate with bookshops.org, so you would be supporting the channel as well. I feel like I never really say that, but I'm putting that out there as well if you want to support the channel. Last, I guess, housekeeping thing, which is another good thing if you are looking through the list, which is coming back to my point, is that I've really been on top of like reserving my books on Libby, because I've been using that list to be like, okay, let me go check Libby to see if they have this book to be able to put on hold, because sometimes before the book even releases, Libby, you can put your hold in before the book even comes out. So I'm just letting y'all know that that's another reason why I've been more on top of new releases than I was in the past. And while I'm still taking NetGalleys, not in the way that I used to, the NetGalleys that I've been taking on ones that I'm like very, very excited to read. So yeah, so this is the case for The 7 Daughters of Dupree. I've reserved this as soon as I knew it was coming out. I went and checked on Libby, put in my little reserve, and baby, when the audiobook came through, I was one of the first people to listen. So The 7 Daughters of Dupree, it is a family saga. Yes, a family saga, and it goes through each of the daughters or each of the Dupree women over 7 generations. So it pretty much goes through this generational trauma, the generational curse that the Dupree women can only give birth to girls. And in that, we learn about the woman and the secrets that they harbor and what they've been through each generation. And I will say I really enjoyed this one. I'm trying to give a summary without giving away the book. I really did enjoy this one. And you know what? There's always a specific like generation that I tend to enjoy more the storyline, because it does jump between generations. Like, it's not a linear story of we're going to start from the oldest ancestor up until present time. Like, it jumps between time and space, and I really enjoyed that. And if anything, the youngest Dupree, her mother and the grandmother, their storyline, I think I was the most invested in. It spoke to me the most about family and the secrets that we carry, trying to form your life like separate or in progress of or maybe in spite of what has happened within the past of your family. But also there's a sense of like not knowing. Like, there's so much that the women did not know of each other, and maybe the grandmother, the mother, and the granddaughter of like the most current iteration of the Duprees really hit home for me, is because they're in proximity with each other. And so all in all, to say, I really enjoyed the 7 Daughters of Dupree, and would recommend it if you're into like that saga of family, and especially women within family. Also an appropriate one to talk about during Mother's Day, because it does talk about like what mothers carry. And yeah, I just really enjoyed this one. Okay, the next book I have on my list is Getting to Happy by Terry McMillan. So in my last wrap up, I have read Waiting to Exhale with some friends, and we were all like, well, I guess we got to read Getting to Happy now. And baby, when I told you I jumped straight into Getting to Happy, I jumped straight into it. I read Waiting to Exhale, but this time I listened to Getting to Happy, and I actually quite enjoyed the audiobook. Terry McMillan, I think she reads Savannah, and each of the women have a different narrator, but I know for sure Terry McMillan meets Savannah. So Getting to Happy, again, is the sequel of Waiting to Exhale. Is following these women, I think 15, if it's not 15, it's 20 years later. Now they're in their 50s. First of all, I don't think we really need Getting to Happy, but it is kind of sad that this is the point that like the women realize that maybe all the things that they desired or were fighting for in their 30s, maybe that's not what necessarily they needed to be happy at this moment in their lives. I don't think Waiting to Exhale ever really ended on a happy note. At the end of Bernadine's story, I'm just thought like, I don't think she was like, these issues are going to haunt her later. I don't think she ever really resolved the issues from her divorce. And as I thought from Waiting to Exhale, that's exactly what happens in Getting to Happy. No, she did not. It's kind of spiraling. Like, her ex-husband, her second ex-husband, is like her 13th reason why. It's the straw or the hay on the camel's back that kind of sets her over. Gloria didn't deserve what happened to her in this book. She really didn't. It's really not Getting to Happy, it's getting to sad. But yeah, Gloria did not deserve that. Savannah, I don't know if they ever really get to happy. Maybe they get to a sense of contentment or a sense of realization that the things that they were on the rat race trying to get isn't truly the things that would have made them happy in the first place. And maybe it's this realization of, if these things didn't actually make me happy, what will? And maybe that realization can actually get them on the path to happiness. And that's all I have to say about Getting to Happy. I don't know if this was particularly my favorite, but the audiobook wasn't that bad. But yeah, we could have ended on Waiting to Exhale. I don't know if we really need the update. Okay, the next book I have is Real Americans by Rachel Khong. I read this for a book club, and I didn't hate this one. I actually enjoyed this one, and it was a different speed of book than I typically read on the channel. And this one follows Lily. So Lily, I believe she had just graduated when we meet her, and she's working at this company, and she meets this man named Matthew at her company party, and they end up having, which seems very fast, their relationship. Like, they get together, and the next thing you know, she's like practically living in this man's house. And for some reason, they end up breaking up, and then they end up getting back together. But whatever, through this relationship, there's a secret connection between her family and his. And ultimately, we follow the story of this family and get this look into identity. I think more so than anything, it's about this sense of Americanness and identity that gets explored within the book through this secret that we don't really learn until the end, but ultimately is what fractures the relationship between Lily and Matthew and her parents. So she becomes a recluse, or she ends up moving to Seattle and disconnecting herself from her parents, from Matthew, and we're not sure why, but we slowly learn why through the son that they have, Nick. There's so much to say about this one, and I don't want to say too much without giving away the book, but if you haven't read Real Americans, such an appropriate title, then I would actually recommend this one. I wouldn't rush to it, but I would recommend this as a good read. I have a lot to say about this. It is Phases by Brandy. I listened to the audiobook. I was very excited to listen to this one. And this was probably like immediately, as soon as it came on Libby, I was like, reserve. And I think I was like first in line. Like the day that the book released was the day that I got the audiobook. And I was very excited to listen to it. So I don't know if I talked about it in my anticipated releases, but I am a Brandy fan. Watched Moesha, have listened to all the albums. I've seen Brandy. I'm not gonna put footage, but I've seen Brandy in concert twice. And yeah, there's a lot that we don't like. There's a lot that we know about Brandy, but we don't know her own personal thoughts about the way that the things that we know transpired and how they affected her. I feel like she covers a lot in the memoir from beginning to end. Some things I wasn't expecting her to cover was when she was younger and she was with Emma, or she was signed to Chris Stokes' label for a little bit, and she talks about like coming up around the same time as Immature. And I really like, at least in that part, how she put into perspective almost predatory nature of being a young person in the industry. And it definitely gives the building blocks of how she could end up in a situation with Wanya like she did. And we all, from, if you're not familiar with Chris Stokes is not only responsible for Immature, but I think he's most notably known for B2K. And when B2K broke up, during the time before when they broke up and now have gone back together, there have been a lot of accusations of Chris Stokes and abuse that was happening in his label, not just with, concerning the B2K members, but also with other young artists who were under his label. So I think Brandy kind of gives an inkling into the culture of that label and how she was kind of uncomfortable with when she was a part of it, and how ultimately she ends up leaving and why she ends up leaving. And it's not surprising, with everything that we know about Chris Stokes and the type of relationship that he's had with other artists under his label. So, or his management, I think that's better to say. So yeah, that was surprising, but it also put a light on how precarious isn't the right word, but just how susceptible the young artists, I was talking about this with the book club, but Brandy, everything that's happening with Usher, because Brandy and Usher pretty much come out around the same time. She brings up Aaliyah, she brings up Monica. All these are very young people in the industry, and with everything happening with Diddy and how Usher has been navigating that, it is interesting. Or I have more respect for Brandy, how she explicitly talks about her situation when she was under Chris Stokes for that period, and her relationship with Wanya. And she talks about the difficulties of, specifically as a young Black girl, navigating the industry, and how she doesn't fault her mother for the ways that she tried to protect her. And she kind of gives a glimpse of how there were a lot of instances where she was pretty much preyed on. And I feel like she does that with a lot of grace and empathy within the book. And I love how she kind of, at the time, maybe she wasn't aware, but now as a grown woman who has been in the industry for a while, how she's able to highlight these moments where she did not have the agency that she probably should have in those moments, and recognizing that and calling it out. I respected that a lot. She doesn't really talk about some of the controversies that we know about Moesha, the rift between her and Countess Vaughn that ultimately from what we understand, led to Countess Vaughn getting the Parkers with Monique. It is very flowery. The writing was more flowery than I anticipated. Some moments were beautiful. Other parts were a little bit dragged out and for me a little bit unnecessary. But I think she was very honest about a lot of things that happened to her that we've never really heard her explicitly share her feelings about. There are some parts in the story that maybe we remember more intimately. Like Brandy did have 2 reality shows. The one when she was initially, which was more like a special when she was pregnant, had that special before she gave birth. And then she also had a reality show later, probably in like the 2000s, maybe early 2010s. It was like the family. It was like her, Ray J. We got an inside look on their lives. And there's some friendships because I remember, I don't know if her and Kelly Rowland are really close, but I remember her being on the show. And it would have been cute just to maybe talk about how those things came to be. But there's only so much you can talk about in a book. And I think she touched on the biggest scandals within her career. She doesn't really talk about one of my favorite Brandy albums is 211. I think 211 does not get its justice. And I'm surprised she didn't really talk about that very much in the book. But I was surprised that she also talked about how much he initially didn't really care for Aphrodisiac, which, I mean, also beside Full Moon, I think it's one that's really beloved by the fans. So I'm surprised that, like, Human, I'm not surprised that that's the album that she grew to love, because I'm also not that big of a fan of Human, but I know people who love Human. But yeah, Phases was a good one. Anytime there's a memoir, I would recommend listening to it, because 9 times out of 10, the artist or whoever is the writer of the book or the subject is the one reading it. And I think Brandy has a very pleasant voice. It's not like Mariah's. I think Mariah's is still one of my favorite. Mariah and T-Boz, because T-Boz is just like a very lively storyteller, and she does the impersonations of specifically Left Eye really well. And Mariah is like singing the lyrics to her songs in that audiobook, which is really good. But I think Brandy's up there too. Either way, if you are not super familiar with Brandy, I think you would get a lot from it. I think she does give some levity of coming up as a young Black girl in the industry, which I think makes it also a good read for that kind of perspective. But overall, yes, I would recommend. I'm not going to talk about this one too much because it hasn't released yet, but I did read Misconnection by Tia Williams, and this is a really cute one. This is a cute. I think this was the levity that I needed in terms of romance and just that fun, romantic, like, some of the stuff is nonsensical or it's possibly could have happened, but it's just unbelievable enough. Like, it's still rooted in enough reality that it's fun. So yes, I had a really good time with The Misconnection. And The Misconnection is about, I think her name is Sasha. Yeah, Sasha. So Sasha, she works in like the casting world, and she's on this flight to France. She meets this Italian man who woos her, but she doesn't get his name or any type of information about him. So now she's like, I'm trying to find this man. So she's trying to find this man, and in that she runs into an old flame, a possible flame. But anyway, it's just for me, it was a really fun read. It's not in the vein of 7 Days of June. I don't even think it's as fun as the Ricky Wilde story. I can't remember the full name, but it does take me back to like Accidental Diva, The Perfect Find type of like being around New York, fun, comedic energy that was in those first 2 books that I just really enjoyed. So yeah, if you haven't had I'm sure like Tia Williams is up there in that girl category. Like, she's one of the girls, so I'm sure everybody has this on their list, and I think it's rightfully so. I really enjoyed it. Okay, moving on. This is another one that actually it released last month. So don't tell me how it ends. I got an e-arc for this book, and it is by Adrienne Thurman. And this is a story of Kaya. Kaya's from Massachusetts. Kaya's from Massachusetts. She moves from Kansas. She moves from Kansas back to Massachusetts. Her sister Zola is pregnant, and the father of her child decides that he doesn't want to be a father, and like out of nowhere she becomes a single mother. She already kind of has some reservations about being in a serious relationship with a man because her father ups and leaves them when they're young, and her mother since then has been in these relationships that kind of go nowhere, and he's been chasing these men, and it's been leaving Kaya indifferent to falling in love because she feels like men would just abandon her. So she's very avoidant. Okay, so she meets Ro. It works for his dad's garage, and her and Ro become friends, and you know how the story goes, friends eventually to lovers. And I didn't hate this one. I don't think I've been seeing, I was reading reviews, I saw reviews saying that they think Kaya is annoying. I don't think Kaya is annoying. If anything, it makes sense. She's a recent grad because she literally just moved back from Kansas because she graduated from her teaching program, and she's like, I don't even know if I want to be a teacher. So she's kind of directionless and lost, and you get that in the story, and maybe that's frustrating because it seems like she's not sure of anything, and she's not even sure of Ro, and that's frustrating. But also it's like she's in this point, I think at the moment of in the moment in her life that she's in, it's understandable that she's feeling a little lost. And I'm unclear of Ro's age. I'm unclear if Ro is the same age as Kaya or a little bit older, because you know, some things that we learn, I'm just thought like it's giving that he's a little bit older. But Ro does seem more sure of what he wants than what Kaya does. And that seems frustrating. I can see how that can be frustrating. But again, I understand why Kaya is a little bit directionless. And I'm just all like, if that's the case, instead of Ro being all like trying to push it and force it, I'm more like, if you're so sure, why would you want to be with somebody who's unsure, who's this lost, who doesn't know if they want to be with you, what they even want to do with their like career and life, and they're just kind of like in this weird sunken place. That did make me question like maybe I can understand why Kaya likes Ro, but I don't understand why Ro likes Kaya. And what was ironic for me by the third act breakup is the things that make me question, does he even like her, is the same things like he throws in her face when they argue, which to me was not cute. Like, that's not cute that like the second that things blow up, the things that I'm just like, why would you want to be with this person, is the things that you throw in her face as being like this undesirable thing about her, but you still desire that person. That I was like, I don't like that. One thing I will say, I would have, so Liv is Kaya's, you know, high school friend or friend that she grew up with, and I wish they explored that fracture in their friendship a little bit more, because we get a sense that like Liv is going one path because she seems a little bit more sure of life than Kaya is. I don't think we get enough of it. I don't think we sit in it enough about how directionless and lost Kaya is. I think in the book, it just manifests in like she's super avoidant. She doesn't believe in love, and she is a little bit scorned from seeing what her mom and her sister has gone through. But I don't think it manifests into I feel directionless in life. Just feeling that internal confusion. I don't know if we sit in that enough, which will also have lended into the friendship and that shift that her and Liv are going through, which I would love to have been explored more. But overall, I mean, the middle of the book kind of drags, but I still think that it was a good read. If I would give it a 1 out of 5, I would give it like a 3.5. Okay, next book we have Keeper of Lost Children by Sadeqa Johnson. I have read House of Eve and is it Yellow Wife? I have to look behind me. Yeah, House of Eve and Yellow Wife. Between the two, it's hard to say. I think House of Eve might be number 1 for me. But in terms of writing historical fiction, I think people's hesitancy to read historical fiction is that they don't want to read a book that feels like they're reading a textbook. Like, they still want that they want to be connected to the characters and feel like these are round, full human characters, that their decisions still feel like something that can be relatable and you can connect to in a modern sense, but still be grounded in the historical context. And I think Sadeqa Johnson does that so well. Like, the rationale that these characters go through feel so timeless. And to give you what Keeper of Lost Children is about, it's told from three perspectives. So it's told from the perspective of Ethel. Ethel lives in Germany, a Black woman that lives in Germany, and she's assisting in this orphanage, mostly of orphans, of children that were the product of Black men who were in the military and German women. And then there's Sophia. Sophia lives in Maryland, and she's going to this boarding school, and she's one of the few Black people in this boarding school, and she's struggling, but also she's kind of struggling with feeling like that she's not really necessarily a part of her family. And then she meets this this other student who looks like her in terms of, being light skinned, but whatever, looks like her. And then he's all like, well, actually, I am adopted and I'm a result of soldier and a German woman's relationship in Germany, and someone adopted me here. So then she starts to think, maybe I'm adopted. So then we go into the spiral with her. And then there's Ozzy. Ozzy is a soldier in Germany who ends up in a relationship with this German woman. So we get the perspective. Pretty much it's about these children that are the product of, during World War II, that are the products of German women and Black men, and the stigma that they receive while in Germany. But overall, Sadeqa Johnson, look, Tia Williams on the list. Sadeqa Johnson, she don't miss. She 3 for 3 with me. Okay, I listened to the audiobook, and I'm gonna have to go get a physical copy because I need this one also on my shelf. But next we have Leave Your Mess at Home by Tolani Akinola. And this one is a story of a Nigerian American family that lives in Chicago. And it is, yes, 4 siblings. There's the eldest son, Ola, the eldest daughter, Sola, the middle child, Angela, and then the youngest child, Karen. And when we meet this family, the eldest daughter has moved back to Chicago from the West Coast, from Cali, and nobody knows why. But also, we don't know why the eldest daughter hasn't talked to her family in a decade. So we're learning about the dynamics of everybody's story, of all the sibling stories, and in that we're trying to figure out when the hell happened that Sola severed ties with her family for this long. So Ola is the eldest son, and he's about to be a dad, and he's with, is her name Melissa or Maria? Marisol. Her name is Marisol. This is my wife, Marisol, and she's Argentinian, and they're about to have a child together. And baby, they're going back and forth about this child's name. And if I'm gonna be honest right now, I was not seeing it for Marisol. I wasn't at all. But also I didn't really see it for Ola, because Ola, this is the bed you made. This is the bed you made. And I don't feel sorry for you that baby girl is saying what she's saying to you right now. Okay? How she feels about naming the child with a Nigerian name and talking about, oh, your name's kind of hard, which is real. It's real, because some people think about what should I name my child that the grandparents are still able, especially if you're you have grandparents who maybe aren't here or speak another language, and you're like, I still want my side of the family to still feel connected and have access, and you feel that way by the child's name. But the way that this conversation was going, I was like, I'm not feeling this at all. Okay. They couldn't name the baby Patrick. Okay, and then we have Angela. Angela is another storyline. Actually, all of them have storylines that I was very enthralled with. But Angela has this longtime friend. I cannot think of his name now. This is why you should write down names. Angela has this longtime friend that she's been friends with pretty much since like maybe middle school forever, right? Like they pulled a Sierra and Future, got dressed together. That's not really how it went, but you get what I'm saying. They got dressed together, but her friend is about to get married. Is about to marry somebody else, and it's eating her up to see him marry somebody else for real, and especially because she was pretty much in love with her best friend that's about to get married. And then we have Karen, the youngest, and Karen is. The biggest thing is that she is trying to figure out her sexuality. It can be hard in a Nigerian American family. That's all I gotta say. But all of them are going through something. And then we have the mama. Oh, the mama. The mama. The mama and the daddy. The daddy is not that bad. The mama is in a way, is protecting her children. But she just really pushes them that like, and I think all of them are trying to not Sola and her be, they butt heads, but the rest are trying to impress her and please her. And if anything, it's kind of to their detriment. Leave your mess at home. Chef's kiss. Okay, and then lastly, I read Love by the Book by Jessica George, and this one was a great book to end off with because this was one of my favorites. This is probably one of the favorites out of all of them. I'm not gonna lie. This follows Remy and Simone, and Remy is a writer, Simone is a teacher, and follows their friendship and also the changing dynamics of Remy's friendship, who she wrote a book after. So she wrote a book after her 3 friends and herself. They're in this 4-friend group, but they all are in their early 30s. Yeah, they're all turning 30, 31, 32. They're all in their early 30s. And life is like really changing for them in a way that deeply affects their friendship. And Remy is really going through it. But it's such a Love by the Book is such a touching story about love, but in the platonic sense. Like in Remy's relationship with her mother, Remy's like finding new friendship. The friendship that Simone and Remy have or develop is such a beautiful love story. Like it almost makes me a little bit teary-eyed because like, if anything, I would consider this a romance, right? I would consider this a romance. It has all the elements of a romance except that it's friendship, right? And I loved Remy's character and her vulnerability and her honesty and how that created this sense of closeness with not only between her mother or these familiar relationships, but also with her friends, right? Like the ability to be seen by your friends is such a beautiful feeling. And I feel like it's captured so well in this book as someone who also have had friends that I've had for years and, friends that I've lived, like just also having that same sense of close platonic relationship. And I feel like this book captures that so well. It captures it so well. Like the act of like meeting a friend and like that relationship that develops between friends. Like, I don't know if you've ever had this moment where you meet somebody and you go through, whatever, and you're like, this is going to be my friend for life. Like, like I think Love by the Book captures that so well, and I can't think of another book that captures this as beautifully as Love by the Book does. I loved Mame too. I loved Mame, but Love by the Book might be my favorite so far. And those are all the books that I've read so far recently. I have some exciting ones. If you want to know what I'm currently reading, I just got a copy in of A Singular Perspective, Kari's View. Will this focus? Yes, A Singular Perspective, Kari's View by Shaby Bryce. I'm so excited to read this. I did a collab video with Miss Malcolm Hughes' channel, and we talked about Where Sleeping Girls Lie. This is her debut novel. I'm so excited to read this and get into this book. I think the cover is beautiful. And I'm so excited I'm so happy that I have a copy of this and that she has a published novel. So there we go. I'm reading the True Confessions of First Lady Freeman, is the arc on my radar. I also have the arc, which this is about to release, I think next month. Rashid Newsom also wrote My Government Means to Kill Me, which I read very early on in my channel, probably at this point 3 years ago. And I absolutely loved that book. I have a physical copy. I'm not going to grab it. But anyway, he's coming out with another novel. There's Only One Sin in Hollywood. Baby, when I tell you I'm so excited to get into that one, I'm so excited to get into that one. Okay? But you're probably not going to see it until the next wrap up. But yeah, that comes out June 2nd, I believe. So next month. But yeah, so that's pretty much all my bookish thoughts for right now. Let me know what you all have been reading recently, and any new releases that I haven't touched yet that you guys will highly recommend. I'll be sure to put it on my radar. But again, or as always, we will continue our conversation in the comments. And until the next time, y'all, deuces.